All right, so here is an overview of the data that I have prepared for the study on complaining and satisfaction in global virtual teams. Stefan Gershevsky is the lead author on this paper. And the main idea there, as I understand, is to, on the one hand, explore what predicts complaining behavior and satisfaction in teams. And on the other side of the equation, to explain or explore what the level of satisfaction and complaining sort of leads to, how it affects team dynamics and performance. So let us together collect the data, and let me share the screen here for this study. Again, let me know if you think a different set of variables may be needed, and if anything else I'm missing, I'll add those right away. So the important thing here is, again, that I will include a little bit more data than needed, so that if there is extra data, you can always delete it. But if something's missing, it's always more complicated to add them later. So I'm adding definitely the team ID, and you will use that if needed to match the different levels of individual, team, university, and so on. Demographics, for sure. So maybe it is age, maybe it is gender that leads to complaining behavior. Course information, just in case, percentage of the grade allocated to X culture, maybe students where the percentage of the grade is higher, they have higher expectations and maybe complain more. I will include also measures of the acquaintanceship, how well people know each other. There is at least reason to believe that when people are more familiar with one another, they will hopefully be more happy with each other and complain less. This one seems to me very important, and we've been using it pretty much every semester, or at least many semesters. When you look here to the right, you will see that this one was included in many semesters. It's the attribution bias. So it was a set of questions that allow us to determine if people tend to blame themselves or others when something goes wrong. Internal versus external attribution bias. Presumably, when people have an external attribution bias, I suspect they will be more likely to complain and be less happy. Now, for control, I also include here barriers expected and barriers actual. So this is a set of questions where we ask people to what extent they expect different things to be a problem, such as language difference, time zone difference, and so on and so forth. And then we ask the same question at the end of the project, and we ask them to what extent it was a problem. So it is an indirect measure of satisfaction in a sense, but more importantly, it is a direct measure of what went wrong. And so when you get a lot of complaints, maybe in some teams, some things really went wrong, and that's why people complain. So you might want to use it as a control because, let's say you hypothesize that culture affects complaining behavior. But what if it happened to be the case that people from some cultures just happen to be on teams that have a lot of problems? The only thing that I recommend here is that we check team level barriers or problems, because if I'm not happy, I'll probably say that all of those things were problematic. But if you look at the average behavior or reports of problems from the team versus my individual complaining, and if the whole team says, no, we didn't have problems with time zones, no, we didn't have problems with cultural differences, no, we didn't have problems with whatever else, stereotypes and prejudice, but I say I'm not happy with my team, that probably tells us something. In a few semesters, we used coaching. And so students could use coaching. It's not many of them used it, and it was not every semester that the data, that the coaching was available. But again, maybe as a control or moderator is availability of coaching, predicting or moderating the level of dissatisfaction and complaining. I will include also here the communication frequency. And so we have all kinds of different measures you can look here, and maybe even types. So maybe the more people communicate, the happier they are. Again, not sure if you need it. If you don't, just delete it, but we have it. We also have communication style, but it's only one semester, so for now I'm not including it. I don't think it will be relevant, but if you decide that you want to use it, let me know. So Conflict frequency, obviously, again, I include a whole bunch of measures here. And as you will see, most of them are available on a weekly basis. So when you have this at 1, at 2, at 3, that's basically the week when it was measured. Again, it could be used as a predictor of complaining. Maybe people had a lot of conflicts, but also as an indirect measure of dissatisfaction. Conflict resolution style, you probably don't need it, and we only used it in a couple of semesters, so it's not so much. Coordination, scheduling, workload distribution. I'll include it here just in case, but you probably don't need it. So presumably, again, teams that have an easy time distributing workload will be happier and vice versa. So in fact, you probably don't need all of this. Well, just in case, include it all. You can always delete what you don't need. Cultural intelligence, maybe as a moderator, let me include it here, or maybe as a control. Might want to check for that. So we have a lot of different measures of cultural intelligence, and you don't need them all. So I just included the most popular one. Cultural background, you definitely need that. So we have country born, country home, and country of current studies, plus a measure of whether or not it's an international student. So if the home country and country of studies are different, it's an international student. And so we have that measure. Prior international experience, just in case. Cultural background, multicultural, just in case you need it. Now, I will also include cultural values, and I will include here X-Culture's own measures, and U, which is a popular instrument and a good one here. And so when you look at the names of the variables, you will see here CV stands for cultural values, U is the instrument, and then masculinity here. Or, for example, collectivism, or, for example, PD power distance. So that shouldn't be a problem. You just may need to take the average dimensions. So if you believe that maybe people from high power distance complain less than people from low power distance, you can use it, you can get those data from here. Emotional intelligence seems very relevant here, so I'm including it here. Let's see what else. Language skills, just in case. Maybe people who are not fluent are not necessarily able to talk about that. Locus of control, attribution bias, similar to what we had before, just in case I'm including it here. So motivation, a different week. Again, not sure how relevant it would be here, but we have motivation, how motivated the person is to work with the team at different weeks of the project. As you see, week 2, 3, 4, and so on and so on. It seems relevant in the context of this study. Also, I include here motivation to participate. Some people, in fact, you probably need just this one here. So some people participate because they have to. Some people participate for the certificate. Some people participate because they would like to learn something new, how much time they plan to invest. In fact, let me include the whole block here. So take a look, and I'm not sure. I suspect people who have to do it just because it's a requirement and they can't get out. So they'll probably complain more. Whereas people who are intrinsically motivated to participate in the project probably will have a different perception. Number of active team members, I'll include that just because, again, it's such an important factor, and maybe they complain because nobody's participating. So I'll include that. Let's see what else here. Do they need more team members? We ask them if they need more team members. Again, presumably when they're not happy with the team, they'll ask for more team members. So just in case included, and here, as you see, we have different weeks. This one is very interesting, participation level self-report. So we asked it only a few semesters, but we would ask them every week before, how actively did you participate? And so some people say, oh, I'm doing all the work, whereas others don't do anything. So I don't know, it seems like it's a relevant variable in this context, or variable construct. And so again, a little bit more on how many team members were active in different at different stages of the team life. Peer evaluations, I'll include all of them here. I'm not sure if you need them, but just in case, I'm including them all. And as you see, again, we have them by week. And that's why you have so much here, because it's several dimensions, but because we do it like 10 times, you would have them here. So when you look at them, variables you see here at week 8, at week 9, and so on and so on and so on. The only things, I think you don't need one block here, which is peer evaluations, what we call given. Yes, that's what other people gave to. Well, actually, you know what? Let me keep it here. So the first block was what I received for my peer evaluations. The second block, that's what I gave my team members. And we might want to check if those who complain a lot, if they also give low peer evaluations to their team members. I don't know if you need that, but just in case, you might want to check. And you know what? I'll even include self-evaluations. Just curious if those people who complain a lot, if they give themselves higher peer evaluations, maybe they think that they've done all the work, and so they give themselves high peer evaluations. Personality seems relevant in this context. I'll include everything. Let's see what else we have here. Readiness test, I'll just give you the total grade. So that's, again, kind of a proxy for IQ. So just in case you need that, you might want to use it as some sort of a measure of intellectual preparedness, if you want to call it that way. And now here we have a whole block of satisfaction. As you will see, it's satisfaction with the report, with the team, with the instructor. So that's a measure of, you know, essentially complaining to some extent, right? Now, what else do we need here? Probably the rest is not needed. I'll include team chemistry. It's a measure of how frequently the team members talk about things that are not related to the task at hand. Again, maybe people who have more of those personal discussions are happier. Likewise, swift trust, that's the propensity of the person to trust others. Again, maybe some people are just inherently more trusting and happy than others. So we'll do this. A lot of measures on team climate. Again, you probably don't need it, team climate and psychological safety, but it seems like it's an important measure here. Again, we don't have many of these measures, as you will see, so some of them we used only in some semesters, but hopefully it will be useful here. Closeness with the team, well, we didn't measure it much, but let me do that here. So what else? Confidence in team. Well, this would be, yeah, probably I don't want to, yeah. Team identification seems like a relevant one. I don't want to load too much on your plate. So, but team identification seems to be very important. Team life cycle, you might want to see if people who constantly perceive that their team is going through storming, for example, if they're more likely to complain. Again, you probably will not need it, but just in case, I'll include it here. And trust in team, different measures. Again, do they trust their team members or not? So you don't need the informed consent, and you don't need all of this. But there is one more measure of team climate that we just measured this semester, so I'll include it here, just so you have it. Yeah. So here you go. You have nationality, you have culture, but all kinds of other things that potentially can predict performance. At the team level, I don't think you need this at all, but just in case, I'll include team size, percent male, just because, you know, you might want to have it. In a few semesters, we also had teams that were comprised of all-star, like best universities, or stellar performance, just to see if people happen to be more advanced or people from top universities, if they complain more. MBA undergraduate, co-located, diverse, so I'll include all of this. I'm not sure if you need the report quality, but just in case, I'll include it just because you might want to look if teams that complain more, if they do a better job. So as you see here, we have a bunch of measures of team report quality, and most of them were by different, you know, like these measures were used in 2013, 2010. These were used later, but they are roughly the same questions, just with slight variations. So you might want to check at some point using some sort of multi-level analysis if teams from different countries, if teams that complain more or are less satisfied, if they perform worse or better. So yeah, if I missed anything, let me know. I'll add those data. If I added too much, which I know I have, just delete what you don't need, and would be very happy to discuss it further.